I have 3 challenges today. First, I'm very honored to be invited by Sheikha Salama Foundation. Second, I'm really humbled to be on the same program with the Kiva co-founder and an Acumen fellow. And finally, I can talk about the women I work with forever. But today I've been asked to talk about my personal journey, which I've never done. So forgive me if I stumble. So my journey starts as a biomedical engineer. I worked as a biomedical engineer for the first 10 years of my life. And there was plenty of career growth, starting from installing machines in hospitals all the way to business development, Europe, Middle East, Africa. So as my career was growing, I was starting to feel less and less excited about what I do. And in fact, it got to a point where I felt so guilty for growing the big and not the small, that I resigned from my job. And I had no idea what I was going to do. Basically, my business plan was, let's try something and see what happens. And it was just, I felt I had skills that I could probably use to help people that needed it most. So I started a company. I called it Blue Fish, because blue is my favorite color and fish is my favorite food. And I printed business cards at home and started going to every seminar and forum and meetings. There was no goal, no clear plan. And my family was getting very frustrated with my career crisis. So my mother recommended that I travel to London, where my brother lives. Hopefully he will sort me out. So the idea to travel to London made me go out to the souk in Tunis and fill a suitcase with handmade products. And I thought, since I'm going to be in London, maybe I can visit some buyers. I did business development for multinational corporations, so I don't think it's that hard to help those little companies. So when I traveled to London, of course, my brother was very frustrated with me. You know, you're a biomedical engineer, what are you trying to do? But I went to visit buyers with my business card that says Blue Fish, Leila Ben-Gacem, consultant. And of course, when you work for Blue Fish and you have no plan and you have a suitcase of products that I wouldn't even put in my house, very few people meet with you. And if they do, they let you meet the assistant or the junior buyer. And, but in fact, even the junior buyer did give me some feedback. It doesn't sell because of this, it doesn't sell because of that. And I took the plane back and I'm on a mission. I'm going to go back to those artisans and tell them how to fix those products so that their business will be more sustainable and their livelihood will be better. But I have to cover my costs. I have to travel to places, I have to make phone calls, I have to write emails, I have to make proposals. How do I cover my costs? Of course, my friends were telling me, just buy and sell. No, I don't want to make commission. I want to help them become sustainable. There must be a way. So one thing led to the other, and I met a friend who said, you know, people like you, they get paid by Famex. What's Famex? So I look it up, and it turns out to be a World Bank fund to support, to develop export in Tunisia. So I go to Famex, and they say, we have a French designer coming tomorrow. He's going to work with 8 artisans that he picked, and he will help them go to Maison Objet. Would you like to be the product coordinator? Of course, the status that Blue Fish was at that moment did not allow me to say no, even though I have no idea what they were talking about. So of course I said yes. The next day I had to get a license as an export consultant. I did not know such things exist. So I went to the Ministry of Trade and Commerce and got the license, and 8 p.m. I was at the airport waiting for the designer. So the designer comes, and I'm the project coordinator, and we travel to different parts of Tunisia, meeting the artisans that he was supposed to coach for a whole year to go to Maison Objet. And whenever we meet with the artisans, he keeps on saying, they have to create products that make people dream. So the artisans ask me, what's the quantity, what's the color, what's the length? No, they have to make people dream. So being an engineer, working between designers and artisans, there was plenty of communication problems. And the year was very long. But during this year, I got to know more and more the little companies that were managed by all the artisans that I was working with. And they're not, I got very inspired by them because they're not just creating products, they are really crafting their legacy. They feel they have a mission in life. Despite their simplicity, they want to preserve heritage, they want to preserve the identity, they want to preserve their family's legacy. So I felt this is, I was on the right path because these are people I want to help. And we went to Maison Objet and we did make people dream. The booth was beautiful. It was in harmony, it was very trendy, and it attracted a lot of buyers from many companies. And as excited as I was, I answered every question with yes. Can you make 1,000 of this? Yes. Can you be our agent? Yes. Can we come to Tunisia and you help us meet this and this? Yes. Didn't matter. I had a notebook full of orders and business cards and action items. And of course, blue fish has a meaning. It's blue for the Tunisian sky, and fish is the sign that is used on most crafts. Embroidery, tiles, everything. There is why I called it blue fish. So now I came back and I sort of have a business plan now. I'm going to look for artisan groups, I'm going to find the marketing gaps, I'm going to find people who will fund me to cover my costs, and then I'm going to link them up with markets. And there was so much to do. Some projects I did were funded, some were not, but I did not know where to start, where to end. I traveled places to teach people how to write emails so they can send their product photos. There was another group who needed to keep a cash flow, understand their pricing, and whenever I see a beautiful product, I buy it and send it as samples and see if I can get orders. And it was not easy, but it's not impossible. And even as simple as the products are, as simple as the businesses are, they are very inspiring people that create a living for themselves doing what they love. So Bluefish is becoming a very important consultancy company. And the CV was going around. I got a phone call from Muntada Bahrain, who asked me if I would come to Abu Dhabi to deliver a training for a group of artisans in the Chamber of Commerce, which was organized by the Abu Dhabi Businesswomen Council. So of course I said yes. And I came here for 10 days to deliver training to a group of women at the Chamber of Commerce. That's me in the middle. They gave me a Sheila and an Emirati forgot to blend in. And the training was very fun, but also it was very puzzling for me because in the UAE you don't need to export. If you sell in any mall, it's like exporting to the whole world. And at the same time, I had a group of women who are very eager to learn, very excited to be in the training. They obviously want to be entrepreneurs, but the product was not exciting, the price was wrong, there was no marketing strategy, and it was a big puzzle. It looked like there's no link between the market and the artisans. 1 year later, actually after the training, I did send a report to Muntada Bahrain to thank them, of course, but also to propose a few things that could be done. 1 year later, I get a phone call from a compatriot who works at Khalifa Fund and tells me, we would like to develop a project to develop handicrafts in the UAE. Would you like to join us? I said, of course. Bluefish will make you a proposal. We are a consulting company. But unfortunately, it was a permanent job. Now, there is no rehab centers to help you get out from an entrepreneur to a government, you know? So, so it's extremely challenging to go that way. And that was a very scary move for me. I was getting so used to my freedom, and I wasn't sure I could fit in. But the good news is I felt excited again. This is another mission. It's the puzzle that I saw when I trained those women. I would love to explore and see how it could be solved. So I move, and I start looking for artisans. And a friend called Sheikha from the Western Region Development Council, I tell her the culture in Abu Dhabi is of Bedouins, so I'm sure there are women weavers. She said, if you want Bedouins, you have to go to Ghayafi. Okay, so my Tunisian driver's license is not converted yet, so I take a taxi to Ghayafi and I start knocking on doors. Can you weave? Yes, I can. Can you weave? Yes, I can. And I will never forget two women. The first is Prita. She says, we're Bedouins. All of us weave. But we used to weave tents. Now we live in houses. Why do you want us to weave? And then there is Afra. Afra said to me, you came to the Western region to look for weavers? I said, yes. She said, people only come here to look for petrol. So with the help of a beautiful lady called Moza, she courageously copy-pasted the Khalifa Fund logo from our website, printed I don't know how many invitations, distributed them to all houses, because I asked her to group all the women on a D-Day, and I told her I want to tell them that they can become part of a Soura program where we teach them how to convert their skill into a business. So she courageously invited all the women in the town. So I was there. To my surprise, there was a room full of women. Of course, I had a smile from ear to ear because I did not expect to find so many. And they came from Liwa, from Silla, Abd al-Mtawa. They all came curious to know what I have to tell. And there was a revolution in the room. There was half the room who said, we will only work if you give us a salary. And the other half were like, put your name on the list. So they were sort of convincing each other that you should not be producing, only you should be giving a salary. So, and also, it's impacted by their perception that their new reality is too far away from them. So it's very hard for many to believe that they can today produce something that is wanted by the market. But even in Khalifa Fund, or even in society, when I talk to people, they call them ayayis. Ayuz is old, but also it comes from ajiz, which means inability to do. And this creates a feeling of obsoleteness. So with a very small group that registered in the program, we started giving field trainings. Of course, it was first a challenge to get them back on the loom. Another challenge is to coordinate colors, to use measurements, to understand patterns. And then to create the finished product, we had to go through a sewing training, and it was a very long year of trainings because the skill has completely degraded, almost lost. But many of them were excited to come back, but they still don't see where the program is going. We got to a stage where we had a product that was sellable after a whole year of losing new women joining. Thanks to Kitab, Abu Dhabi Book Fair, we were offered a booth. And this was very exciting, of course, because it would be the first appearance of Soura product in the market. So I told the ladies, and to my surprise, each and every one, there were only 12 of them at that time, each and every one had a suitcase full of products. I don't know when they slept, but just the thought that their product will be sold made them work so hard. And of course, we had to meet to discuss prices, labeling the product, and I actually had to convince them to put their name on the product because many of them were saying it's aib. socially unacceptable to put your name on the product. So we got this little stand at the Abu Dhabi Book Fair 2010, and it's hard to explain how nervous I was, because on one hand, there were a lot of women that told me it will not work. There were also colleagues that told me nobody will buy this. The women that sustained and attended every training just believed in something they don't know, and they were hoping that it will come true. So of course, I tried all I can to sell as much as possible in this exhibition to prove that ayayas can be entrepreneurs. And at the end of the exhibition, we sold for 53,000 dirham for the 12 first artisans. Of course, it's hard to imagine my excitement. I went back to Khalifa Fund very proud, but they were not very excited, because I realized I'm a government employee, I'm not supposed to be selling. We give money, we don't make money. And all the other legal issues. But then I also met some corporate people that gave orders. So we had to fast train new women to make up for the orders. So the first sales, of course, I went to each lady and gave her the amount of her sale. And the news spread all over the Western region, and then we started getting phone calls from many women asking to join the program. But there's one lady called Anna Brita. When I gave her her envelope, she was the one that made least money. Most of them made more than 3,000 dirham, but she made, I think, 600 at that time. And I was very apologetic. When I gave her the envelope, I said, Brita, it's your zipper, it's your lining. I promise you, I will help you improve. And she said, Shbalaj, what's wrong with you? I could have lived and died and nobody would have heard of me. So, of course, I'm an engineer. So if you tell me social inclusion, there's no number to it. I cannot understand it. But when she said that word, I think I can write a book about it because it meant so much. By the end of the 2010, we sold for 500,000, and we had about 22 artisans. So there was no other way. Soura had to become, either the program stops or it had to become a business. So I'm very glad that our board accepted to make it a trade license. It's a business which creates self-employment opportunities for many, many locals, talented locals. And again, since then, there's so much to do because more and more women were joining. This is a group of women in Fujairah. Traditionally, they make incense, bukhur, but the business is not going very well. Because of high competition, everybody's doing the same, everybody's selling to the same people. The price hasn't changed in the last 30 years. So we got a group of them and said, okay, how about we teach you perfumed candles? Not all of them liked the idea, but those that did went through a training, and they were a big hit last Christmas. And now we have a new perfumed candle group in Dalma, Ajman, Al Ain. Also, we made some leather clutches with telly to revive the telly craft, and palm leaf. So today, Soura, since its beginning, sold for about 4 million for 150 artisans, and we have a waiting list of more than 200. So they're not ayayas, they are inspiring artisan entrepreneurs. Thank you. And they employ their children even, and they are inspiring for their children who are unemployed. They are a good example of entrepreneurs in their communities with little jobs. Thank you.